Welcome to Mi Gente on Air on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Now, here is your host, Larry Rodarte.
Good afternoon. I am Larry Rodarte here on Mi Gente on Air, and we're looking to provide a great show for you today. I am in a great mood. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. We have gone through some crazy rains and floods in the Great Lakes Bay region, and it's still happening. They're predicting more rain, but today it's sunny and shining, and it's really nice out. It's kind of hot, actually. I think it's like 71 degrees. So I'm in a good mood, and we're going to be talking some issues today on world topics, of course, what is on everybody's mind, and that is what's happening with Pope Leo and President Trump. It's not a topic that I want to shy away from simply because everybody else seems to be and doesn't want to be my guest, but, I feel like we need to talk about this issue because it's something very, very big. And later in the show, I've got Tommy Salazar coming on from Grupo Ilusión in Pontiac. They're going to be talking about what's happening with Cinco de Mayo this year, where they're going to be playing, where they're at, and who is coming to the Saginaw Cinco de Mayo. Very special guest as well that Tommy's involved with. So that's going to be happening in the latter part of the show. But for right now, we're going to be talking about Pope Leo. Now, I'm Catholic and always have been, and was born and raised and baptized at St. Joseph Catholic Church many years ago, and feel very fortunate and happy to be sharing my religion and what I can in knowledge-wise, but it's not something that I've studied from a theologic perspective. It's just what I know growing up as a Catholic, and I feel that Pope Leo, he is our leader in the world. He is the vicar of Christ, the representative of Jesus Christ, and he was elected in 2025, and he is standing his ground against President Trump, who has taken him on, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance, in regards to this whole issue with the war in Iran. And I would love to hear from other people in my show today in regards to this, because everybody kind of seems to be having their own opinion on whatever part of the scale that you fall on in regards to whether you're, a big President Trump supporter and MAGA, or if you're, actually one of the 1.4 billion Catholics in the world that are standing primarily with Pope Leo. And it's a big issue. When have we ever had a president, take on a pope? I know in history, world history, thousands of years ago, because the papacy has been in existence for quite some time, nearly 2,000 years. And, there have been issues where popes have been corrupt, believe it or not, and where there have been popes who have taken on and been involved in politics or in the war. Now, Pope Leo, he is a relatively new pope, the first American pope, and he had a lot to say. He has had a lot to say. He hasn't been quiet as a pope, and he is the leader of Christianity in the world, with being the vicar of Christ, selected, when the cardinals come together and they're selecting a pope, and that happened I think it was last May. Part of what is in our faith as Catholics, we believe, is the Holy Spirit comes and guides those cardinals to actually select the vicar of Christ, the actual next pope. And they selected the American-born Robert Provost, and he is Pope Leo. He took the name Pope Leo. And he hasn't been quiet in regards to what is happening with the war in Iran. We have a sitting president who has, made a decision to go to war, something that he did not campaign on. He said that there was going to be no foreign wars. He wanted to get out of foreign wars. He talked about the Biden administration in regards to Afghanistan and that war. And yet here we are, a year into his presidency, and we're in a war that has not been approved by Congress, and it's not been approved and favorable by the American people. And so we find ourselves here today where Vice President J.D. Vance, is taking on theology and saying that the Pope really should stick to politics, basically. And, it's a terrible thing. I just came from somewhere where an older gentleman, he's around 82 years old, and I told him what I was going to be doing and talking on my show and talking about the Pope. And, he just got this real sadness in his eyes. And he says, why is President Trump doing this? Why, and I don't know if he fully understands all the politics involved. I don't understand it at all either. But, he just was in the mindset of, how could a sitting president take on the Pope? Who does that? Who takes on who is the moral authority of the world, as that representative of Jesus Christ. And, it's really too bad that we are in the state of where we are in the world, because I know it's being very offensive to many, many Catholics, many, many Christians. And, I seen a meme in a post on Facebook, on social media, where they said, we're riding at dawn. If you stand with Pope Leo, join us. We're riding at dawn. And, it's funny, but it's not, because this is something that, many of us Catholics, we take very seriously. And to see what is happening where, Pope Leo has to defend his papacy, on a daily basis. Every day he's not being quiet about it, and to have a president who, in his Truth Social posts, calling for the annihilation of a total civilization, with the Iranian people. Yeah, Pope Leo is going to say something. He's going to stand up when he sees errors towards humanity, where people are, talking about, annihilating a whole civilization. It's just nuts. And, I know that maybe President Trump didn't mean that, but I'm sure that he did in order to get kind of what he wants with the Iranian war. But people are going to defend that. People are not going to be happy with those types of comments on a world stage. And so here you have somebody else who has a very large world stage, Pope Leo, and President Trump and many of the MAGAs find it offensive. They find it offensive. And I really would like to invite anybody to come on the show and talk with me in regards to this issue. I know there are some who are mad because I don't have a counter guest who can counter what I'm saying. But we listen to so many of the right wing podcasters or media people out there who don't have any counter guests on their shows, and Sean Hannity is a great example, and he's going to be on this radio station a little later or through the week, and it's I'm sure he's taking the opposite side of what I'm saying. I'm saying all this because as a Catholic, and I'm not always a great Catholic, I don't go to Mass every Sunday, but I am a Catholic, and I believe that Pope Leo is in the right here, and I believe he is the vicar of Christ. And I've had some wonderful experiences with the last three popes personally. I remember going to World Youth Day in Denver, Colorado, when Pope John Paul II, who is now a saint, he came there to talk to the youth of the world, and he had a great impact on my life at that time. I think I was in my mid-20s in 1993. And, he spoke to all of us about defending our faith and being not afraid to showcase your Catholic faith. And I'm not by any means. And, one of the things, there were thousands of kids, I remember, in Denver, in the I think it was in one of their football stadiums that is no longer there. I want to say Mile High. Well, I remember after he spoke, several of us, we ran from Mile High Stadium outside the gates there, and Pope John Paul II hovered over us on a helicopter, and it was a wonderful experience for him to be so close. And we were yelling. I was yelling as loud as I could, "Viva Papa! Viva Papa!" And it was such an exhilarating feeling just to be in the vicinity of Pope John Paul II. And I remember when we left and we got on our bus to head back to Detroit. We got on the bus and it was raining. It was a light rain and all. And we were coming on a curve off of an exit. And the leader of our group said, look. And we looked and there were 6 rainbows in the sky. I have never seen that since, never seen it before. And it was the day that I saw Pope John Paul II. So, I mean, that to me told me something right there, you know. And Pope Francis, one of the popes that followed afterwards, I got to see him during the canonization of Mother Teresa in Vatican City there at St. Peter's, and it was what a wonderful experience that was, you know, to be that close to St. Francis, or I want to say St. Francis, Pope Francis. He's probably going to be a saint someday as well. I don't know, but and then this last summer in 2025. I was in Italy also at St. Peter's Square and got to be right there in the vicinity of where Pope Leo was. And he shook and waved to us, and it was really nice to experience that because of all those thousands of people who were in the square that day. I said, I'm probably one of the people that is from the area that he is from, being that he was from the Midwest in Chicago, born in Chicago, and actually did some of his seminary work in the west part of the state of Michigan, and actually was a priest at one time at St. Michael's in Flint. So pretty much close connections. And, you know, I talk, and you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm excited to talk about the popes. There always have been men who I have looked up to, because that's what my faith taught me. That's what, as a Catholic in the Saginaw Diocese, and even in the Detroit Diocese, that's what they've taught us all these years. And so I know that there's a number of people who are upset and they want to defend the Pope, because no time in our recent history have we seen something like this, where our sitting president of the United States of America, you know, is attacking Pope Leo, a sitting Pope. And so, you know, if people have disagreements with me in regards to this issue, that's okay. That's why we have these podcasts and these shows, to be able to talk about these issues that are affecting us all. And in 2025, 2026, this is a time where there's a lot of discourse and polarization within our people, the Americans, you know, here in the United States, but it has filtered over into the world. And I've talked with even friends from Italy and Rome, even the Prime Minister of Rome, who typically agrees and goes with President Trump. She's even speaking out. I've seen where she is upset that he said what he said in regards to Pope Leo. And I'm not going to go into what he actually said. I'm pretty sure by now everybody has seen the post. And you got to be real careful with what you're seeing, and make sure you know, it's verified, worthy of truth, because, you know, I don't want to attribute anything to President Trump that he may not have said, or Vice President Vance, or even the Pope himself. But pretty much the reliable sources and every network is talking about it, what is happening today with the Pope, and so and President Trump. And so I wanted to bring that up as a topic today, because I think it's important. And I'm sure I've seen many posts as well from many priests in different dioceses, some who are very well known, some who are lesser known, and they're talking about and defending Pope Leo as well. So it's really something, because when we look at the idea of Christianity in America, and, you know, we have many white nationalists who are Christians as well, and it's really difficult, because we find ourselves at a time where, okay, as a Christian, do I fight and you know, stand with Pope Leo, or do I listen to President Trump and what he's saying because I have voted for President Trump as a Christian? You know, I mean, these are really tough issues in our country these days, and I know that there are issues that are being talked about within friends, with families. And how does a Catholic family of faith, you know, go forward when you may have divisions within the family who, you know, people are supporting President Trump still after all that he has done in the last 10 to 11 years. And so, we're coming to a head, I think. And, the midterms are in November, about 6-7 months away. And, all I can say is, I'm not saying who to vote for, but I'm saying get out there and vote. Utilize your voice in this capacity to be able to say what is going to transpire in the next months after the November election and the midterms. It's that important, grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, get your kids ready to vote if they're of age, and make sure that they're getting out there, because I think that it's that segment of the population that says my vote doesn't count. And they haven't had life's experience to know that it actually does. And so, we need to mobilize. We need to mobilize as people of faith. We need to mobilize as Americans, and we need to somehow make a difference in this craziness that we are seeing and we are living through. And my God, 5 years from now, maybe, hopefully, things will be in a lot better state in the world, and we can look back and say, wow, we are survivors of that time. We survived COVID, and now we have to survive this craziness in our country, where we are in a war with Iran, and there's a lot of politics involved with that, and we're looking at such villainization as well as the Muslim faith, and that's wrong in itself. Here in Michigan, we have the largest Muslim community outside of the Arab world in Dearborn, Michigan, and there are many there who are upset because, as you know, many of the Muslims in Dearborn actually voted for President Trump because they were upset with President Joe Biden at the time, and it kind of is backfiring on them as we speak. So there's just a lot going on, and if anybody has any comments they want to put in the room here today, they can go right ahead and do that, and we'll try to address them from our point of view. Okay, but that's what I have to say. In regards to, because it's such a hot topic issue of what's happening, and it's something that we all need to look at, because sometimes we get really complacent. We take it for granted as wow, this is what President Trump is going to do. He's saying what he's saying, to divert from attention from the Epstein files. I've heard that. He's just trying to deflect or what have you. But it's just crazy. It's just craziness, and we can't sit there and just let this be the norm in our community. We need to get back to being, a society with definitely scruples. And it's just crazy to me how far we have gotten away from having good morals and scruples representing the people of America. We have diverted so far from that. And when they talk about let's make America great again, well, let's get back to having morals and scruples in our country in terms of especially in our politics, because it's gotten so ugly, and it just keeps dividing people and families, and it's not a good thing. And I know that many of the Latinos in our community in the Great Lakes Bay region, as well as throughout the United States, Mexico, has a huge following of the Catholic faith, huge following, and always has and always probably will. And so this is really hitting our community. It's hitting our community in a big way when we see the leader of Catholicism, being attacked the way Pope Leo has. And, if you feel so moved by this, that's why I say mobilize, and, make sure that your voice is being heard by getting out there in the polls in November. And, talk to, if it's really upsetting you or what, talk to your priests, talk to your pastors, because it's all part of how you have to keep healthy as an American today, as American citizens, that mentality because of the craziness of what's going on in the world. And it is crazy. And I see my connections to Europe that I do have, they're really upset about it too. They just can't believe what is transpiring. And to us as the United States of America to be in a war right now with Iran, a war that wasn't provoked, a war that wasn't approved by Congress. Something's got to change. Something needs to be said of what is happening, and so that's why I bring you this counter opinion in regards to what President Trump is saying, and I really feel strongly about this, and I do support Pope Leo wholeheartedly, as that vicar of Christ. So we're going to go into commercial real quick. I want to thank you all for being with me here today. And up next, we're going to have Tommy Salazar from Pontiac, from Grupo Olucion, and we're going to talk from the Pope to Cinco de Mayo, which is coming up in less than 3 weeks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
$4.99%.
This is Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
Welcome back. I am your host, Larry Rodarte, and it's a pleasure to be with you here today on Mi Gente on Air. It is April 17th, and tomorrow is my birthday, and so I'm looking forward to that. But in 3 weeks or so, less than 3 weeks, believe it or not, I think, we're going to be celebrating the big holiday for Latinos across the United States of America, and that is Cinco de Mayo. And my guest today is somebody who very many people know throughout the state of Michigan and in the Midwest, because he has a group a band that plays Tejano Conjunto music with his father, his brother, and his name is Tomas Salazar, and he's from Pontiac. Welcome, Tommy. How are you?
Not bad, man. It's beautiful out. It's the weekend. Summer's upon us. What more can you ask for right now here in Michigan, man? This is some of the best times of the year for us. If you're from Michigan or the Midwest, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw my glasses on so I look a little bit more like Tommy there, because I see him with the beard, and I see him with the longer hair like me in the back. I just don't have a cap on, but yeah. So Tommy, tell my listening audience, because as we're going to shift now, we're going to talk about Cinco de Mayo. Tell us what you got cooking, man, because you've tapped into some big kind of celebrity down in Texas. And we just made an announcement that he's going to be joining the Saginaw Festival this year. And you kind of originated that. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, man, it's all happening, man. I mean, this time of year, like I said, once again, this is a big time for the Midwest. This is like we get the 4 seasons, and I think anywhere in the country we enjoy our summers, our springs, falls, winters the most out of anybody in the country, because you get 4 seasons. One of those things. So it's like, when wintertime is here, you get to, slow it down, relax and cut back, because, in the summertime, we're all going hard in the Midwest. So everybody's looking forward to that something, whether it's being on the lake, cooking out, going to the bailes, festivals, all of the above. So this year, I got to talking with, Bumper from San Antonio, from Bumper's Wacky Wednesdays, and say, hey, man, you want to come on down? We do it big every year, and it came into fruition. We got to talking, and as I talked to you, Larry, and numerous promoters from the Midwest, and said, hey, let's make something happen. And I talked to Bumper, and we were able to ink a deal and get him out here. So yeah, he'll be in Saginaw, one of the best festivals in the Midwest. And then, he'll be with us in Toledo at night. Yeah, man. So we got something else up our sleeve. But yeah, Bumper, man, he's down to earth, cool cat, man. And, he does his thing, man. And he really has a big following. And he's just a people person, man. And he's just a cool cat all around. So he's going to be, if you're not planning on doing anything, plan to come out, support these events. Cinco de Mayo in Saginaw, Cinco de Mayo in Ohio, Toledo, Cinco de Mayo, all over, because it's going to be happening everywhere. Only thing is, Bumper will only be in Saginaw and Toledo. So, if you want to get a chance, get out there, meet them, check it out, and, have some fun. Not just that, um, Saginaw's going to have DeSeo, a hot band, and Champs. Them guys get down. They top talent all around. And then he'll be with us in Aztecas, Ilusión Azteca, out in Toledo. So all around, man, there's going to be a lot to do, plenty to do all over the whole weekend leading up to Cinco de Mayo. So yeah, man, it's a great time to be in Michigan and
Yeah.
Ohio.
Yeah, well, let me just explain to my audience who Bumper Gomez actually is. He's a former Marine. He's a
Nice.
uh, serviceman, and he started a show right after around COVID, and it was called Wacky Wednesdays. And he basically got on a podcast and just started his own podcast promoting Tejano music and conjunto music in a big way. And because of his personality and because of his talent, he was able to really capture a lot of audience of Tejanos, Latinos throughout the United States. And I had him on my show maybe about a year ago, because he was headlining up with many of the talented musicians in the Wisconsin Milwaukee Festival in the summer.
Yes.
And so I had him on my show to introduce what they were doing over there in Milwaukee. And lo and behold, he's coming to Saginaw now. But Bumper Gomez, he's hilarious. His comments, he makes promotion of Tejano and the Tejano artists, not only those that are established, but those that are up and coming. And so he's going to be doing some interviews with our bands that we're going to have in Saginaw, the Cinco de Mayo, the Sale, like Tommy said, as well as Conjunto G's that are going to be there, and possibly even Motivos. So they're going to be at our dance, the after party, after the festival at Jolt Credit Union Event Park. They're going to be at the Union Civica Mexicana for a dance from 12 to 8 p.m. But Bumper, he's going to be on my show in the next couple of weeks before Cinco de Mayo. And he's got a great story. And the thing about Bumper is that many of you who may remember Johnny Canales, they're comparing him to Johnny Canales and saying he's the modern day Johnny Canales. Johnny Canales had a show every Sunday that many Latinos throughout the United States would watch faithfully, because he was bringing on new artists and promoting the Tejano Conjunto genre as well. And so Bumper Gomez is kind of doing that from a podcast that he has a lot of followers, and he's making big waves, and everybody and anybody in the Tejano genre knows who Bumper Gomez is. So we're real excited to have him coming to Saginaw, Michigan. He's going to be talking from the stage over at the Jolt Credit Union Event Park. And then from our festival, he's going to be going to Toledo, to where Tommy is going to be performing with Azteca at the La Cantina nightclub. There's a lot happening, and I'm really excited to have and invite Bumper to the area, because I've always said it, and I know Tommy believes it, that some of the Midwest bands are as good as any band coming out of Texas, believe it or not. And I've known Tommy for a long time. When Michael Salgado came here in 2009, and we had him in the parade, believe it or not, and we also had him at a dance. Tommy and his dad and his brother, Grupo Ilusión, they played as a warm-up band to Michael Salgado at the Dow Event Center. It was, I think, the Civic Center at that time. But in 2009, I remember after the parade, I had Michael Salgado in my vehicle, and we went on the island. We drove on the island because he wanted to see the festival. And he was really amazed. And he says, man, this is just like Texas. This is, he couldn't believe how the Saginaw Cinco de Mayo was drawing that many people on the island. And it has done so year after year. And so I took him around, and I had him introduce him to several people. People were coming up and taking pictures. And it was that, that was really nice for a major star like Michael Salgado to interact with the community and the people for Cinco de Mayo. And so we've
Yes.
had a number of different guests through, last year we had AJ Castillo, the year before that, Elida Reina, and the year before that we had Stephanie Montiel, Nettie Gonzalez, and the year before that Michael Salgado, and then pre COVID we had Chris Perez, Selena's husband, Saginaw has
Yeah.
done a beautiful, beautiful celebration, and we are in our 47th year, heading to 50 years. And this year, our special guest is going to be Bumper Gomez. So
Yeah.
thanks, Tommy, for making that all happen. And how do you see that it's going to go, Tommy, as far as Bumper coming to the Midwest?
Oh man, I see that the all the raza, the gente is gonna show love like they do every year. I see them coming out, and a lot of folks are already excited. We're generating a lot of buzz. So Bumper has a big following from Texas to Michigan and all across the U.S. So that gives a good chance for him to see. I mean, he's already seen it in Wisconsin, man. It's a beautiful festival out there. And like I said last year, I missed it. My parents and all my fam was out there, and yeah. So long story short, man, he's been on Wisconsin area. He's seen that, and that gives him a chance to come out here and see how we do it here in the Midwest, whether it's up in Saginaw, beautiful Saginaw, Michigan, and to be able to go and experience Saginaw out in Toledo, Ohio, which, is another hot spot for Tejano music up here. Because prior to COVID, we did have, twice as many venues. And now it's like, you got to give credit where credit's due to all the venues and promoters, festival coordinators, and everybody who's doing their part to keep the music going, man, and not just that, the musicos, all the musicos up here, man, putting in the work, the time to provide great music for the gente that wants to dance, and we want to dance, they want to party, and it's just a great time to be here in the Midwest, and I think Bumper's gonna love it, man. You know Saginaw's always a great time, and we always have a great time in Toledo, and so and all over, man. You're talking all over Michigan, all Lansing, Waterford, Pontiac, Detroit, Saginaw,
Adrian's got one. Adrian's got a big Sigma
Adrian.
Mountain
Oh
Festival.
yes, and we'll actually, while you guys are getting down in Saginaw, we'll be getting down in Adrian, Michigan for the Chico Cinco de Mayo. So I try to spread the love, show the love, and all these events that are going on, man. Without the promoters, the coordinators, all the Larry Rodartes in the Midwest. Some of this stuff doesn't happen. So without the promoters that are, having faith in us to have these events, without you guys, the bands are nothing. So it's a big teamwork, a big team event, and we all work together up here in the Midwest. And I think Bumper's gonna enjoy it, man. I really do, and I think the raza and the gente, everyone's gonna enjoy it as well.
Well, I also want to mention Detroit. I think they have a very nice celebration as well.
Yes,
Their parade is long, has been in existence longer than the Saginaw one. We, like I said, we're going on 47 years, but they were the granddaddy back in the day of the parade. And I know that they've struggled with their parade in all the in recent years, and of course we all did during COVID.
yeah,
But they're still going strong over there, and they've got their parade on Sunday typically, but they're actually celebrating on Saturday and Sunday.
yes,
The Comité, the Mexican Patriotic Committee, who sponsors that event, kind of like how the Union Civica Mexicana sponsors the one here in Saginaw. And it's those nonprofit organizations that have put forth these celebrations for many many years,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's for the community, and but it doesn't come cheap. I mean, I want to mention that to everybody, and to be able to have it at a facility like the Dow Event Center's outside park, Joe Credit Union Event Park, and even to have a parade in a city like Saginaw, there's cost involved, and you have to pay the city police, you have to pay
sure,
the chief
yes.
of police, you have to pay for barriers that are going up on the streets and trying to keep people safe, and so it's a pretty penny that we have to, as an organization, raise money for. And then, of course, the Dow Event Center and their outside facilities, it's not cheap by any means. And then to
Yes.
pay all the talent. And then, by the way, we also have the Ballet Folklorico of Detroit that's going to be coming. They come every year, and they do a wonderful job.
Oh
And
man, they're awesome.
they just
Yeah.
seem to get better and better, don't they? With all those kids, and last
Man,
year,
we did the event at the Little Caesars Arena, and they were there, man, and that's always a highlight for me, is the mariachis, the dancers. And yeah, man, that's what it's all about, man. You know, the culture, the food, the dancing, the families, everybody coming together, having a beautiful time. You know,
The
and
food
and
trucks.
the food trucks, the patitos,
That's why a lot
everything.
of people come is just for simply the
Yes. The
food.
food, yes. Yeah, the tacos, and all of the above, man. I mean, we just have such a beautiful culture, and you know, there's nothing like it when, you know, you get all these different genders or different cultures, they get to come out and see how we do it, man, and there's really nothing like it. You know, and a lot of different, you know, races, different folks, they try to emulate some of these things that we do and our culture does. And it's just a beautiful thing, man. I mean, the U.S. wouldn't be the U.S. without Mexicans. Mark my words and remember that.
Well, you know, you have participated as well, like in Canterbury down there over in Lake Orion, I believe it is, and
Yes.
they
Yeah.
have a nice taco fest now, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
bringing you're one of the performers that is there, as well as in Royal Oak they have
Yeah.
their big taco fest, and Eastern Market has a big taco fest in Saginaw. You know, we're the ones that the Union Civica Mexicana puts it on because we said, you know what, we need to do a taco fest before somebody else does, because look at what's happening over in those communities. And
Oh
so,
man, it's just, man, it's a good thing, and it's good for the community, good for everybody, man. Who doesn't like tacos? Who doesn't love tacos? You
yeah,
know?
yeah. And like I always say, now here in Saginaw, as a community, we've gotten away from the Taco Bell hard shell tacos, and we're now doing more of the street,
Yeah.
tacos
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Pontiac. Pontiac has great food trucks as well as
Man,
Detroit. Detroit was always, where I would drive down to for the tacos, the carne asada tacos with
I
cilantro
was
and onion.
I was just there yesterday, man. It's the best tacos. I mean, all over Michigan. You know, we went to Mexican Town yesterday, and it was we snuck off and got, got actually they sell the whole chickens, and we tore it up, man. Me and my wife, and it's nice to like I said, there's just nothing like our culture, man. It's a beautiful thing, man. And I enjoy every bit of it. And being a Mexican American, and doing things to open up doors and barriers, and not just for myself and my guys in the band or our community, but the rest of everybody, man. What I do for us, I do a lot of the stuff for my band. I do it to break the doors down for all the bands here in Michigan. And I'm nobody special or nothing like that, man. I just do what I do, and try to lead by example, man. And hopefully everybody gets to eat. You know what I'm saying?
Well, thank you for your participation in, bringing Bumper Gomez to the Midwest.
Right on.
I know that he's hot right now, and
Oh yeah.
he's got his podcast, and everybody watches that. And he's had some really good shows, with some of today's artists. I loved when, he had Jennifer Pena on there, and he had
Oh
Eli La
yeah, that was
Reina
a
when
good
she
one.
was, yeah, Jennifer, when Elida was retiring, and
Yes.
so I
Ellie
mean,
was always, yeah.
yeah, he's really had the gamut of entertainment and artists, and he really made a name for himself relatively quickly
Yeah.
on the podcast. And so, I'm looking forward to having him come to the Saginaw Festival and see what he thinks about our festival as well.
Oh
But
yeah, it's gonna be good.
yeah, it's really nice to have the many food trucks that are participating. We got about 10 that are participating, and some of the best here in the Great Lakes Bay region. As far as tacos, if you want a good taco, good Mexican meal, that is the place to be on May the 2nd. In our parade, the lineup starts around 9 o'clock. You can get there earlier if you want. It's going to be on Rust Road right there before the Court Street Bridge, with the gathering area at Garber Courts and on that street there by the YMCA. And we're going to go on the old route, which is going over the Court Street Bridge and then heading north on Michigan Avenue to Saginaw United. And then from there, everybody can go to the festival right there at the Dow Event Center. And that will start at 12 noon, and that will run till 5 p.m. And like we said, we'll have the different bands performing there. We will also have the map there on my screen, and for those uh, listening to how the parade route will go. It's not South Washington like the last couple of years. It's on Michigan Avenue this year, the bigger the bigger street. And so we want to invite everybody, to participate. If you want to be in the parade, Dolores Casel Vasquez is our parade coordinator, and she's doing a wonderful job. You can get your applications in still. If you've got an organization, a dance group, a school, we got a couple bands that are coming.
Oh yeah, and you guys are also doing the Civica after party with Motivo, man. Them guys get down too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
First time
yeah.
we're having an after party dance
It's awesome.
over at the Cinco de Mayo at the Union Civica Mexicana. And yeah, Motivo, that's Rolando Revilla. He is going to be leading up his band, Motivo, in Saginaw. And so we're going to be dancing and having our cowboy hats and our boots and our dancing shoes all the way till 12 midnight. So we've got a
Nice.
full day of events, Tommy. We're going to be out there from, starting the parade at 10:30 a.m., lining up
Wow.
probably earlier than that, and having the festival at 12 noon, and then the dance doors open at 7 p.m. So it's a full day of celebrating who we are in the community of the Great Lakes Bay region and our contributions. Of course,
Yes.
Cinco de Mayo is celebrating and honoring the Battle of Puebla in Mexico many years ago, but today it's taking on the idea of celebrating the contributions of Mexican Americans in the United States. So it's a time to celebrate, and I'm glad, Tommy, you're really involved and you've got the gigs. Now, the reason why we don't have Tommy here in Saginaw is because he's played at the last 2 or 3 Cinco de Mayo's. And I thought, Tommy, come on, we got to give somebody else a chance.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone's got to get a chance, and not just the bands, but the promoters. We got to spread the love. You got to spread the love, and
Hmm.
but yeah, man, that's what it's all about, man. And like I said, you guys got a heck of a lineup up there. If you guys are in the Saginaw area, go check the guys out, man. Motivo at the Civica, Deseo. And the Conjunto G's, all them guys get down, man. It's gonna be great music out there, man. And if you guys aren't in that area, if you're in the area, oh, the parade too. The parade is awesome. That's always great. But the Saginaw Civica, man, they do it big every year. Not just every year. They create events year round for all the musicals, man, and we all appreciate you, Larry, and all the Civica All Stars. You guys are always doing something good for us, and hopefully all us bands do our part and make you guys proud when we come out and do our music. And as far as like us goes, like we'll be in Adrian, single or the Saturday. Then we'll be at the Eastside Cantina at night. Sunday we'll be in Ferndale at Mescal, down in Ferndale, and then Tuesday at Locals downtown Detroit next to Greektown. So for us, if you guys are around, man, show the love to Saginaw, show the love, all over wherever any other events are going on. If I miss some, just get out there and have some fun, man, and get some food, get some drinks.
All
Um, you
right, all
know,
right. Well, Tommy, I want to thank you for being on Mi Gente on Air today at the last minute so we could talk Cinco de Mayo
right on.
and help me arrange with Bumper Gomez to have him on my show. I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of fans out here in the Midwest for Bumper and all that he's doing. So I want to say thank you, everybody. Thanks for being with me here on Mi Gente on Air on this Friday, and we'll see you next week.
Some people reach a line